Hey there guys, Cubby and Brandon here with some comic reviews this week. We got some awesome Marvel, DC, and of course Image books.
We got some Boom, some IDW, and a super awesome Vegas-based indie comic y'all need to check out, so stay tuned. Hey guys, Brandon here, and I got to read Green Lantern Annual #1. Wow, Jeff Johns once again just turns me in a whole new direction, and I don't know where we're going, but it's so much fun. I know I keep saying this about this book, but that's what I love about it, is that every issue I don't see the next issue coming, and I don't know what they're gonna do from here. We get the introduction of the Third Army. I can definitely see where we're gonna introduce this new Green Lantern with some of the events that happen in this book. And I'm excited to see what he has planned. I mean, I know he's had a lot of this mapped out all along from the time he started. And I mean, just like, you know, the Sinestro Corps War and, you know, the whole Black Ring, everything that was going on, I can't wait to see what he's got planned after the Third Army and what happens in this Third Army. So this is a great jumping on point. If you're not reading this yet, just pick it up. I'm giving this 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey there guys, Cubby here with my comic reviews this week, and first up I have Skullkickers #17. It's one of my favorite books so far out of this last couple years that I've been reading comics. It's just really innovative in its sense of using high fantasy but high comedy at the same time, and it fuses it really well. And this particular issue is again the end of a story arc. I think the last time I reviewed it was the end of the last story arc. But you really don't need to know anything about what's going on to enjoy just one issue. This last issue was actually really good. A lot of cool action scenes. They released a Kraken, which was really awesome, if that's a cool little nerdgasm I had there. But overall, it's just a great light comic that uses really cool just animations, and it makes you really think about the way a comic should be played out in your head in a comical way, and it also adds to the action, gives it a little extra dimension, and they really play with the fourth wall. And the best part is the sound effects, not always being sound effects noises, but telling you what happens. It's one of the coolest things in a comic right now for me, and I highly recommend this book. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
So I got a chance to read FF21 this week, a book that I have not read thoroughly and closely in a very long time, but I decided to pick up this issue and really get into it. And you know, Jonathan Hickman is always a great writer, especially when he has the chance to work on such a universe-wide book like FF. He's a fun writer. He gets you into the book and you want to read more of it every single time. That's a guarantee. But I want to talk about Nick Dragotta in this issue. The artist was absolutely insane. I loved every single page. He utilized each character's expressions perfectly. It was animated at just the perfect points and serious in just the perfect points. It was such a fun book to read, but also just to look at. I highly recommend this book. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey guys, this is Haley, and it's going to be pretty impressive if I remember this title that I'm about to review here. It is Star Trek Next Generation, Doctor Who, Assimilation #4. I did it. Anyway, I read the Doctor Who comics with the new run with the 11th Doctor for about 10 issues, and I wasn't really enthusiastic about this one because I just started losing interest in the characters. I just didn't feel like they were written properly, and I was actually very surprised by this. It was really well written. I will say I'm definitely a bigger fan of Doctor Who than Star Trek, just because I just haven't had enough time to watch Next Generation. I definitely have seen it though, so I understood what was going on with the characters, and it was all really well written. And it was interesting because since I'm more of a Doctor Who fan, it was interesting to see that the Doctor wasn't not the only person who was making the decisions, and I see a little bit of conflict brewing there that, you know, he has to deal with Picard making decisions as well. And it's really cool to see them figure out what exactly the Borgs and the Cybermen are up to. Are they working together, or is there something else going on just between them? We find out a little bit more about that, which was a really interesting twist that I'm excited to see develop in the future. There's a lot of potential for the story to continue, so I'm going to give it 4.5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, next up I got to read TMNT Microseries, April ONeil. I've loved these Microseries books because you really get to look at the individual character and focus on just them outside of this big group book that TMNT is. So this was cool to see April on her own. I mean, you see the Turtles and stuff, but her leaving and kind of reflecting on how crazy her life has been since meeting the Ninja Turtles and what's going on with her and her personal day-to-day. something big happens at the end of this, and I want to see how it's going to play into the ongoing series. But like I said, these are a lot of fun, the Microseries books, because you really do get to look at the character by themselves and really get a feel for them. And the next time you read the book, it's really just, it's kind of cool to be able to understand everything like just that much better. So I'm giving this 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Make sure you pick it up.
All right, guys, so I got to read Witchblade, number 159 this week as well. It's actually the beginning of a story arc, so if anyone's looking to jump on this book, check this one out. It actually works out pretty well because it gives you a good little story, little background of what's happening recently. About a couple years ago, they completely redid Witchblade, or at least it seemed like they did. So it's nice to kind of see it not be a terrible book, because I actually enjoyed reading it. I thought this was going to be really, really bad, just big boobs and guns and stuff like that. But there's a lot of intrigue, kind of like cop drama intrigue, but at the same time, there's this underlying like supernatural threat, and it's really all tied in together. So it's a good mix of that supernatural sci-fi fantasy-ish stuff and hardcore boiled cop drama stuff. There wasn't too much of that, more of the religious craziness. So I don't know, I'm still up in the air on this story arc. Witchblade I have not read a lot in my career of reading comic books, and I really don't know what's going on in the whole overall story. It tells it really well in this issue, but it was a little weird on the story, and it just kind of didn't pull me in as much as I thought it would. But still a great read, pretty hot women in it too, and there's some crazy action sequences. So definitely if you're into that stuff, I'd check it out. I'm only gonna give it 3 Nerd Skulls though.
I got to read Debris number 2 this week, written by Curtis J. Weeb, one of our favorites here at Nerdlocker. And last month I got to review number 1. If you remember, I really loved the artwork in it. It was so powerful, and the color is great, and the just the pencils were just amazing. So I highly recommend it off the art. But something I didn't mention last month was I didn't notice who also does the art on this book is Jim Valentino, original founder of one of the original founders of Image Comics. And he just does the giant monster in the title, but that's one of my favorite things about this book. And I have to recommend this issue specifically just because it's got a few pivotal plot points, and you're not going to be able to continue reading this series without it. So pick up number 2. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey guys, I've got Grim Leaper number 4 for you, and I enjoyed reading it as I always do. It's such a great love story, and the love story actually grows even bigger this time. There's one giant moment for these two characters that's really great to see. However, I feel like the fact that it's becoming easier and easier for them to find each other now, there isn't enough conflict. At least there wasn't in this issue. So I'm hoping to see more conflict, but it's still a fun read. I'm giving it 4 Nerd Skulls.
I got to read Batman Beyond Unlimited number 7, and this book is huge this week. We have 4 stories in it instead of the regular 2. We've got Batman and the Justice League throwing down on Apocalypse, which is awesome because the ending of that leads up to something big that's going to be happening on Earth. We get an Aquagirl origin, which is also very, very cool because I've always wondered how she tied into the Justice League Unlimited universe, and it's fully explained here. We also get a Superman-Batman team-up of Bruce Wayne and Superman, a little bit younger Bruce Wayne than we see currently, but still, you know, pretty old, and it's cool to see that dynamic in that universe still going on. And then we have our regular Batman story with the Joker gangs all getting together and rising up finally instead of just being different groups of gangs. This book has so much potential. I love that it's still going. I hope it keeps going. I'm giving this 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, guys, I got to read Justice League number 12, and whoa is all I have to say. A year has passed since this awesome series has started. It's been a crazy wild ride. This is the last issue of this story arc, dealing with David Graves, the guy that wrote the book on the Justice League, God Amongst Men. And it's just a really, really, really crazy issue. It's one of those things Jeff Johns always builds up towards something really, really big. It happens, and there's still story to be told after it. And it's one of those awesome traits that he has. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he has this limitless, seemingly limitless potential for story, especially when it's always really, really good and awesome. And it ends with something I've wanted to see in any Justice League DC comic book. There's a hookup that finally happens. The cover shows it all, like pretty much you know exactly what's going to happen. But man, am I excited to see how this relationship goes out. It really seems like they're not just giving it to you because fans wanted it, but that they're actually, these two characters are going to come together because they actually do feel for each other and they actually have a real relationship. And to see that in a comic book and to see it be done really well and extremely beautifully by Jim Lee, I couldn't ask for more. Geoff Johns, you're doing another really, really great job. This next year of stories that's been teased in this last issue looks so awesome, and I cannot wait to see what happens. I got to give this issue 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Easily the book I'm most excited to talk about this week is Locke Key Grindhouse, a one-shot under the Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez series that I am absolutely in love with. This issue is a true to its name one-shot. It has nothing to do with continuity as far as the actual Locke and Key book, but it is a fun title to read, definitely. It takes place in the 20s, and it obviously has to do with the Locke family in the 20s, and it starts out from the point of view of some gangsters that rob a hotel for everyone's jewels and money and everything, and they try and hide out in the Key house for just a few hours. But unfortunately, the family has some other plans for them. It's a really fun book, and the art by Gabriel Rodriguez is always the best part. Different colorist that usually I wouldn't really be on board for, because Gabriel Rodriguez and his colorist is perfect together. So, but in this book, it worked because it was set in the 20s, and it was just a really fun book. I highly recommend it. If I could give it 6, I would, but I'll give it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey guys, this is Haley with my review of Phantom Lady #1, and I'm going to start this off by saying that for a DC book, I found 2 typos, that should say a lot about the quality of the book. How often do you find typos in DC books? They're not major, but it just kind of, for me, it speaks of what the book is actually about, because apparently it's about a superhero. She does stuff for the first couple pages, and then it's just this really long back history about a character that I don't really know, so I don't really care about her, so I don't care about her past, and I just don't understand why I'm reading this. Apparently it takes place in Metropolis, and I didn't get any Metropolis vibes off of it either, which was also very off-putting to me. So I just think that you shouldn't waste your time reading this book. So I'm just gonna give it 1 Nerd Skull.
Lastly, I got to read Higher Earth #4. Now, I've not read Higher Earth 1, 2, or 3, so going into this I was a little confused because this book is a very, very sci-fi heavy book, which I love. Huge fan of sci-fi, but if I don't catch it from the beginning, I get a little lost with some of the terms and technology and, you know, all that sci-fi stuff. But it's still a good read. I'm kind of picking up a little bit of what was going on. Not fully. I will go back and read this, so if I get to read 5, I can have a much more thorough review for you. But the artwork is great, and the dialogue is really, really explanatory. I mean, they really get in there with it, so I would suggest to pick this up. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, guys. I also got to read Avengers vs. X-Men Versus #5 this week, and woo, man, this is an awesome series, awesome book, and this was an awesome issue because not only was it Black Panther and Storm fighting, which is a really, really, really awesome story. It was kind of depressing, really, really depressing at the end, to be honest with you, but at the same time, it's a fight you did not expect coming. You kind of, once they showed it, you kind of figured what was going to happen, but when you actually read it, it just pulls at the heartstrings and really shows you more depth into 2 characters that, yeah, they've been like showcased a lot, but you don't really see it in the main Marvel like screen. When the main stuff, you usually have to read their specific books to get their stuff and to kind of broadcast it to everyone. Felt really, really cool. The other half of the issue, though, is Hawkeye versus Angel, and of course, Hawkeye wins. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry, but we already knew that was going to happen. Angel just has his little feathers. It's dumb, but still, the issue overall, it's beautifully drawn by Lionel Francis Yu. It's beautifully written by Jason Aaron and Matt Fraction as well. I cannot give this book any more praise simply because Hawkeye is in it, and he is the ultimate badass, of course. So I'm going to give this book 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Yes, 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
A book I've actually been looking forward to for a couple months now came out this week, Scam #1 by Joe Mulvey. Book about, it's basically Ocean's 11, taking place in Vegas too, about some superhero individuals that decide they're going to rob a casino. I mean, it's kind of like that run-of-the-mill storyline, but it actually reads pretty well, and this first issue is insanely thick. It's got a lot of pages, a lot of storyline in it, so you're not going to walk away from buying a $3.99 book wishing that it had more. It has plenty of storyline. You know, I picked it up thinking there was going to be all this, you know, artistry stuff in the back, but it really is from beginning to end a story that you're going to want to read more of. Joel Mulvey does a really great job with both the writing and the art, so you're going to want to check that out. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls, plus he does a promotion here with Maximum Comics here in Las Vegas, so big shout out to Jay over there. He's a good friend of ours, and they put up a billboard for this comic. That's how big of a deal it is. I highly recommend it. You'll like it, plus it takes place in Vegas, so if nothing else, it's got some interest for you. So 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey guys, this is Haley, and I got to read Aquaman number 12. I've been waiting to review Aquaman for you guys for so long, and I finally get to do it. And it was an awesome issue because it starts off with a bang with Mara coming in and trying to find her husband and help him out, and I love her so much, so it was really fun to read. And she's always just so strong that it's just impossible to not enjoy reading anything that she does in the series. But also, I like seeing her relationship with Aquaman now that she's learned some things about him that she never knew before. So there's kind of a question of trust between them, but she's still so strong with him in their bond that it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the future. There's also a very bittersweet moment that all I can really say is that actions seem to speak louder than words on one page, and it was really beautiful how it was handled. It felt very human and very real. I'm definitely giving this book 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, that is all the comic reviews we have for you this week. But till next time, be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and nerdlocker.com for all your nerdy news. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Cubby.
And we'll see you next week for more comic book reviews.